Overpaying for anything sucks, especially socks, so why pay $45 for a single pair of grip socks when you can spend less than half? Pure Grip Socks Pro feature our best materials for optimal fit, moisture wicking, and performance at a fair price, just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
The world of football boots can be extremely exciting at times, but it can also be equally as confusing for a couple different reasons. Big boot brands spend millions of dollars on marketing, having all of our favorite athletes wear their products in an attempt to convince us that these are not only the products that we want, but they're the products that we need in order to perform to the best of our abilities. It's to the point where almost all of us as consumers, at least to some extent, have been slightly brainwashed, because when a new product gets unveiled and you say to yourself, wow, that's pretty cool, I bet I'd play better in those boots than in the boots that I currently have that are almost the exact same thing, that's exactly why they spend all that money on marketing. Which is why today I want to go over the 10 football boot mistakes that you should not make. As always, if you guys do end up enjoying the video and perhaps want to see more videos on topics like this, please don't forget to support this one with a like and leave a suggestion down below in the comment section. Also guys, I have a goal of hitting 750,000 subscribers on this channel by the end of 2021. So for those of you that have been subscribed to the channel, I really appreciate that. But if you currently watch the content and aren't subscribed, it would mean the world to me if you could hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. So I'm starting with what I would argue is the most important aspect of getting a new pair of football boots, and that is the fit and sizing. Specifically, you need to get a pair of football boots that fit you in the correct size, or I guess more specifically, in your optimal size. What exactly does that mean? Well, I can't tell you how many times I've seen the comment where I went to the store, I tried on the boots in my normal size, and they were a little bit too tight or they didn't fit quite right, so I went up half a size and then they fit great. If you try on a pair of football boots in the proper size, meaning that the amount of space between the tip of your toe and the end of the football boot is exactly what you were looking for, and of course everyone has a little bit of a different preference as far as what that buffer zone is, a little bit of space, no space at all, but you have issues with the width or the general shape of the boot, what you've just run into is not a sizing issue. What you've run into is an issue with the shape and width of that football boot not working with your specific foot type. Going up half a size or even a full size is not the way to fix that. What you're now doing is just buying football boots that are now too big for you rather than buying football boots that just don't fit you properly. Now they're too big and they don't fit properly, and you're just buying boots because you're sold on that one product that doesn't work for your foot type. My point being that if you have to go up in size in order for a pair of football boots to feel comfortable on your feet, then they're not the right boots for you. Don't be stubborn. Try something else on that fits you comfortably in the proper size. On the topic of comfort, this is where you need to be brutally honest with yourself, because if your boots aren't comfortable, then pretty much nothing else matters. So, given that you have the fit and the sizing down, when you put your boots on for the first time, especially a new pair, if they don't feel right, you need to be honest with yourself in saying that maybe this isn't the right product for me. And look, we've all been in that situation, including myself, where you have your heart set on a specific pair of football boots and you slide them on your feet and they just don't live up to that expectation, or at the very least, just don't feel all that great. If that's the case, and I've worn I can't tell you how many different football boots, that's a situation that is unlikely to improve over time, especially in 2021 with the materials that are being used for football boots these days. You should have almost instant step in comfort. If you're not getting that and something just feels off the second you slide your foot in, that's probably a sign again to consider some other options. Did you know that if you're a winger, you should only wear speed boots, and if you wear anything else, you won't be nearly as effective as a winger? Boots by position is one of those marketing tactics created by big football boot brands to help justify and explain why they have all these different lines of football boots. One is for wingers, one is for strikers, one is for midfielders, one is for defenders, and then goalkeepers typically tend to be left out of the mix in terms of marketing. And overall, I don't think boots by position is necessarily a bad thing. I don't really fault brands for doing it and trying to explain to the average consumer why they have all these different options. But we as consumers have taken this boots by position idea and turned it into basically a rule book that needs to be followed at all costs. To the point where there are some people that will only consider a pair of football boots if they are tailored towards their specific position. Is there anything wrong with wearing a pair of Mercurials as a winger? Absolutely not. Do you need to wear Mercurials in order to be an effective winger? Absolutely not. Football boots are all about personal preference. You need to wear what fits you right, you need to wear what is comfortable on your feet, and you need to wear something that offers a feel that you have a preference for. If it happens to be Mercurials and you play as a winger and you're falling into this stereotype of boots by position, so be it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but just understand that your boots do not know what position you're playing, and if your coach puts you in as a winger while wearing Mercurials and then switches you to center back, he's not going to ask you to change your boots because your boots are not the ones playing. You are. Boots by position is simply a suggestion and not a rule that needs to be followed. Top end, or let's say expensive football boots, are typically better when you're talking about quality, both in terms of the construction of the football boot as well as the materials used. Where the misconception comes in, and where I think a lot of people misunderstand what they're actually buying into, is they think if they spend more money on football boots, they're getting a better quality product in every single way, mainly in regards to durability, which is often not the case. When you're talking about the construction of a top-end football boot, the materials used tend to be thinner, softer, more pliable, more tailored towards not just performance, but also quality of feel, quality of experience. And often, when you go for materials like this, one thing that does typically take a hit is the durability, where when you compare a top-end boot to a less expensive lower-end one, the lower-end boot's gonna have thicker materials both on the upper as well as the sole plate that are typically gonna be a little bit more rugged and are more likely to last longer. That is not to say that if you buy a high-end boot and a low-end boot, you wear one on each foot, that the high-end one is always going to break first. But more often than not, a high-end boot is not necessarily going to be more durable, which again is a big misconception that a lot of people don't seem to understand. We talked a little bit about the power of football boot marketing and how it can influence us as consumers, where when a new product comes out, not only do we get way more hyped about it than we should most of the time, we have this thought in our head where, hey, that new product looks better than the one I have, and I bet you if I had that new product, I would end up playing better. It's going to be that little bit better. This concept of newer equals better, it just isn't true. And that's not to say that some models don't get replaced with a new version that is significantly better than it was before, but in general, while big brands would love us to believe that their latest products are so much better than everything that they've put out before, quite honestly, if you're good, regardless of the age of your football boots. My point being that while we get excited about new football boots, they are not a necessity or certainly a requirement to perform to the best of your ability. There are a lot of people that seem to think when the new version of the boots they're currently wearing comes out, that the version that they have on their feet is now obsolete and it's holding them back. That could not be further from the truth. It's nice to have the latest products, and sometimes you just go for the latest products because it's the best one for you at that time. But if you have a top-end pair of football boots or even a low-end pair of football boots from a previous season or even from 5-6 years ago, they're still perfectly capable because, again, it's you doing the playing, not the boots on your feet. This next mistake is not about football boots, it's about socks, which you wear on your feet inside your football boots, but often when people experience issues with discomfort outside of the initial break-in process, they like to blame their boots rather than the socks, when more often than not, you can find that your issue was caused by your socks and not by your boots. Most people are just worried about the football boots that they have on their feet, but you have to recognize that your socks are basically the barrier between your skin and the inside of your football boots. And while your boots might feel really comfortable when you just try them on, once you start running around, there is potential for that sock to slip around. There is potential for that sock to bunch up. There is even potential for that sock to just not be very soft and cause extra friction because of just that reason. We see this a lot with recreational players that sign up. They get very inexpensive kits with very cheap socks that might feel okay for the first couple wears, but after you wash them a couple times, the material thins out, it gets a little bit rough, and then hey, what do you know, all of a sudden you're getting blisters inside your football boots that once upon a time were super comfortable. What happened? It was your socks. Good quality socks that fit well are far more important than a lot of people give them credit for. And that goes for just about any sport. We talked about being honest with yourself when picking out a new pair of football boots, where if you put them on your feet and they just don't feel right, maybe they're not for you. But you've probably made that wrong decision once or twice, where you've played an entire season or 2 or 3 or 7 in a pair of football boots that you've tolerated but ultimately haven't felt all that well, but you just love that boot. You're convinced that it's the one that you need to wear. The next time you go to buy a pair of boots, don't be afraid to try something new. I've done it myself. You want to wear the same boots as your favorite player or something like that, but you know in the back of your mind that they just don't feel right. They don't offer the fit that you're looking for. The touch is not exactly what you want. Be honest with yourself and get a pair of football boots that are a little bit different. Try some new things, and when you do eventually end up with that pair of football boots that just feel right, you'll be upset at yourself that you were forcing yourself to wear something that wasn't right for you for all that time. This is a really simple and straightforward one, and again, something that more or less consumers have created on their own, because I don't think any brand has really pushed this on consumers. Mid-cut football boots have become a fairly popular trend over the last 6 or 7 years, and some people seem to think that a mid-cut collar provides ankle support for their ankles. They do not. In fact, on just about every single mid-cut football boot that has been and is currently available, the collar aspect of the football boot you could cut off entirely and still wear the boots, because it has no impact on the fit or lockdown or structure of the boot at all. The collar is simply there as more of a cosmetic thing more than anything. It's part of the reason why people got so hyped about them when they first came out, because they were visually so different from anything else. But in order for your ankle to actually be supported, you have to restrict the movement, and that's not what mid-cut collars were ever designed to do. If you want extra ankle support, I wouldn't necessarily recommend wearing a brace, but I think taping your ankle is a great way to do that, and you can do that with or without mid-cut football boots. This is one of those mistakes that is a little bit frustrating, because I realize that availability is often an issue when it comes to getting the right stud pattern for the playing surface that you're going to be using those football boots on. Mainly talking about artificial grass, where if you regularly play on artificial grass or even exclusively play on AG surfaces, you absolutely 100% should be using an AG specific stud pattern. And look, it's a fair argument to say that you've worn FG stud patterns on artificial grass your entire life and you've never had an issue. In fact, I would say that most people have had that exact same experience. But I also guarantee you that there's going to be people in this comment section that weren't so lucky and they had that FG stud pattern on artificial grass and had that little bit too much grip. AG surfaces can be extremely clingy when you have an FG stud pattern that digs just too deep. Having too much grip puts you at a much higher risk of injury for your ankles, your knees especially, and even possibly your hips. It's just one of those things where obviously you assume some kind of risk by playing any sport, but if you have the option of spending the same amount of money on a pair of football boots with the same stud pattern, or even potentially just spending a little bit more to get that AG specific version, I personally think that's worth it just to reduce my own risk of injury, because being injured just sucks. And when you're talking about things like really severe knee injuries that require surgery and 9 months of recovery and possibly never even being the same again, that's just one of those things that if I can do something for myself in my choice of football boots to reduce the risk or the chance of that happening, that's something that I'm gonna do. I think it's human nature to, at the very least, be a little bit hopeful. But when it comes to football boots, I think there are far too many people that are a little bit too hopeful in terms of what they believe their football boots are going to do for them. I hate to break it to you, but speed boots aren't actually going to make you faster, especially if you're already slow. This again circles back to all the marketing, boots by position. These big brands want to convince you that these are the products that you need and why you need them. So if they tell you that this boot is going to offer better control or has features that would allow you to have better control, there's a lot of people that really buy into it. And while there are certain characteristics of any boot that make it feel distinctively different from other options out there, ultimately at the end of the day, you're just talking about a certain feel that you have to like. Personal preference is everything when it comes to football boots, but just realize that this is real life and not a video game, and the boots that you wear are not going to enhance or at the same time detract from your attributes as a player because they are marketed in a certain way. There is absolutely a certain feel to a speed boot that might make you feel faster, and if that's something that you value in a pair of football boots, then by all means wear speed boots. But if I take somebody who's fast and I take somebody who's slow, and I put the slow guy in every possible speed boot and I put the fast guy in a pair of old school Copa Mundials, I guarantee you the fast guy is gonna win every single foot race. And there you have it, the 10 football boot mistakes that you should not make, even though I've made all of them at least once. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. If you are on the market for some new football boots, check out the new releases page down below in the description, where you'll be able to find all the latest boots with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you can pick them up below their normal retail prices. If you have any questions regarding anything that I talked about in this video, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.